Chapter 10 of A Copper Harvest by a Self-Made Man. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 10. Gideon, Prawle, and his associates take possession of the mine. "Now, boys," said Gideon Prawle after the party had reached Trinity and returned the rig to the stable where it belonged, "I've been considering your proposal that we make arrangements to go by water to the mine, which is now ours past all doubt, camp there, and with suitable tools start in to dig out a carload or two of copper, in order to show what the yield of the mine looks like. I hope you've looked at it in a favorable light, Mr. Prawle," said Jack Howard eagerly. "Charlie and I have talked the matter over, and Myers also had his little say, and it is agreed between us that we like nothing better than a 4 or 6 weeks' whack at the copper deposit, which seems to promise such handsome results." "Well, I don't know as I have any special objections to falling in with your idea," replied the big prospector heartily. "The experiment won't cost such a lot of money, and as the copper is right in sight on the ground level, why, so long as you're aching for a bit of hard work to limber up your muscles, and are satisfied to rough it and take things as they come, you can consider the matter settled as far as I'm concerned." "Hurrah!" shouted Charlie, throwing his cap in the air. "Jiminy cribs! I like me that," chipped in Meyer. "I would sooner monkey with the copper mines than I would gone back to Sackville and work around the drug shops." "Then the sooner we get down to business the better, I think," said Jack in his breezy way. "Of course you'll make all the preparations, Mr. Prawle, as you are well acquainted with such matters. We shall want a flatboat, I should think, to float our cargo of copper to this town, and afterward reship it east to the market. We ought to be able to get a good bit of ore out of the mine before Charlie has to return home. We shall have to have a couple of good serviceable tents, a small cook stove, cooking utensils, blankets, shovels, picks, a couple of iron barrows, and a lot of other things which I needn't mention," said Mr. Prawle. "Don't forget some fish lines. You said there was fish in the North Branch," said Charlie, who prided himself on being a first-class disciple of Isaac Walton. "We could go down there about sunrise mornings and catch our breakfast fresh from the river." "Yeah, I bet you," assented Meyer, who imagined he was a great fisherman too, though he had been known to spend many an afternoon fishing in the stream which flowed by Sackville, and yet come home without a solitary shiner. "That's right. It'll be some amusement for us," agreed Jack. "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, I bid you," grinned Meyer, taking the words out of Howard's mouth. "Dutchman, you're right," laughed Gideon Prawle. "Sure thing, why not?" retorted Meyer, opening his mouth to its full extent. "Don't do that again," remonstrated Jack with a sober face. "One of us might get in and be lost." "So!" "Well, Mr. Prawle," said Charlie Fox, "you buy what you think we ought to have. Do you think you'll have any trouble finding a suitable flatboat?" "Not at all. I know where I can hire one. We can float down the river and pull it up the creek ourselves. When we've loaded it with copper, however, we'll have to charter a small steamer to tow it back here. With the first money we make, I think it would be good policy to put a smelter up on the ground. We ought to get things in good running order before we start out to form a company and take outsiders into the enterprise. You may perhaps know what capitalists are. They want to get the cream of everything they are asked to back, and I, for one, don't believe in letting too much of a good thing get away from us," said Jack earnestly. "You've a pretty level head, Jack," replied the prospector, who had imbibed a considerable amount of respect for the boy's ideas and good practical sense. "Thank you for your good opinion," answered the bright boy. "One has got to keep his eyes open and his wits on edge to get along in these days of close competition." "I move we adjourn," chipped in Charlie with a laugh. "I'm getting hungry, and I would sooner discuss a good dinner than anything else at the present." "Second the motions," put in Meyer, licking his chops at the suggestion of something to eat. "A motion to adjourn is always in order," laughed Jack. "Those in favor of making a bee-line for the hotel dining room will say aye." "Aye, aye," from Charlie and Meyer. "It is carried unanimously, and the meeting stands adjourned pro tempore." "What is that?" asked Meyer. "What is what?" "Pro tempore. That's a funny words." "That's Latin. That means for the time being, see?" And Jack fetched the German boy a dig in the ribs that made him jump. "So!" 2 days later, the setting sun saw the prospector and the 3 boys, now attired in regular mining outfits, toiling up the bank of Beaver Creek with a small flatboat in tow. It was no easy work, the reader might well believe, but the boys were strong and hearty, and stuck to their labor like good fellows. The only kick so far coming from Meyer, who was fatter and less able to hustle than the others. "By Chinger," he said, after they had accomplished about a mile of the way, "when have we got to be ended this job? There'll be nothings but a wet spot left to me by the times we shall be done with it." And he dashed the perspiration from his face. "The trouble with you, Meyer," said Charlie, who was pulling on a line right back of him, "is that you're too fat. It will do you good to get rid of some of your surplus flesh." "Is that so? It will done me good to make a skeletons of myself, you think?" "Well, I differ with you." "Why, you chump!" exclaimed Charlie. "You've been doing nothing else but getting fat ever since you came to work for us in Sackville." "Don't you fool yourself with many such ideas as that," retorted Dinkelspiel. "I don't been half so fat when I landed in the Ellis Island in New York, I bet you." "You must have been as round as a billiard ball then," laughed Charlie. "Get out with your jokes. There's some more off my fat gone already yet," as he mopped his round countenance again. It was nearly dark when they reached the head of the creek. Meyer at once flopped down on the ground and began to fan himself with his soft hat. After a short rest, all the hands got busy carrying the tents ashore and putting them up. The next thing in order was to rig up their culinary department so supper could be got under way. Meyer volunteered to act as cook. His services were accepted, as Charlie vouched for his possessing some ability in that line. "Just wait, little whiles," he said to Prawle. "I will make you lick your chops over what I puts before you, I bet you." And everyone declared he was not such a bad cook after all when they saw and tasted the fried fish and potatoes, backed up by a steaming pot of fragrant coffee which the German boy prepared in short order. "I move that Meyer Dinkelspiel be appointed chief cook and bottle washer of this camp," said Jack when the meal was concluded, and the motion was carried by acclamation. End of chapter 10.